1.
You will hear a woman talking to a man about doing a gap year on a sailing ship called the Solana. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 6. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 6.
Hello, this is the A+ World Academy. How can I help you?
Hello, my name is Marcia Vine, and I'm calling from New York. I'm interested in having my daughter enroll for a year sailing on the Solana.
How old is your daughter? Students of the World Academy are between the ages of 16 and 19.
She just turned 16, so she would be 17 if she enrolls for next year.
So, would she be looking at year 11 or 12 of high school?
I'm not sure. She's in year 10 now, so I suppose we would be looking at year 11 if she went next year. But I'm also open to her doing it in year 12 instead.
We still have places open for the next year. What information would you like?
Well, I've had a quick look at the website, but I thought I would call to get an idea of how it all works.
Where did you hear about us? Just for our records, we keep data on how people learn about our services.
Of course, actually, it was my daughter who told me about it, so word of mouth.
Okay, A+ World Academy is a unique type of boarding school. 60 international students attend high school at sea on the oldest fully rigged sailing ship in the world. The Solana is a 90-year-old Norwegian tall ship. The students learn to sail the ship while they are studying and travel to 20 port cities over the year.
Where does it go?
The route changes slightly each year, but the Solana sails around Europe in the North Sea and the Mediterranean and across the Atlantic to ports in North and South America. Is your daughter interested in the 1 or 2-year course?
I think 2 years at sea might be a bit much. She told me it was just for 1 year.
Students can spend the first year on the ship, and if they qualify academically after that, the second year is land-based.
In Norway?
No. The land-based part of the course has students traveling to 6 countries around the world with place-based learning experience.
I think we are probably just looking at 1 year. What are the fees for the school?
The Solana Foundation, which owns the school, is not-for-profit, so fees are kept to a minimum. The cost for 1 year, which includes tuition, accommodation and food, is €60,000. There is a €150 application fee on top of that.
Wow, but I suppose it is for a year. Do those costs cover everything?
On the website, you can see detailed cost for extras. They are hard to predict because they vary from port to port. But not included in the fee are transfer costs to Norway, travel insurance, visas, the uniform, sailing gear, phone costs and pocket money. Without the flight to Norway and pocket money, extras are usually around €1,500.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 7 to 10.
Can you tell me something about the tuition? Is it compatible with the U.S. education system?
The academic year is from August to June. We offer advanced placement or AP courses. AP has a program developed in the US by the College Board, which offers college-level curricula and examinations to high school students. AP is a globally recognized academic program currently offered in secondary schools in over 100 countries around the world. It's also compatible for students who take their year in the second last year of high school, like your daughter would.
Will she spend most of her time working on the ship? When will she have time for lessons?
There are between 4 to 6 hours of class each day, like a normal school. Over the course of the year, classroom instruction is for about 900 hours, all taught in English. We usually have around 60 students and 10 teachers, as well as captain and crew.
What would she be doing the rest of the time?
Students get mandatory maritime training, and she would have to take part in the ship's night watches as part of the mariner crew and do all the scrubbing, cleaning and sharing the duties on board. She will develop life skills such as leadership, resilience, accountability and teamwork. Probably the toughest thing she will have to deal with on board is that there is no Wi-Fi. There's nothing unless we are in a port.
Yes, that will be challenging. Thank you. I'll talk to my daughter and husband and get back to you.
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2.
Cut 2.
You will hear a radio program in which the presenter is interviewing Mark Reynolds, the organizer of a food festival. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 15.
Hello, Mark Reynolds. Thank you for coming in today. I hear the street food festival that you organize is on again this year. Fill us in on why this festival is so popular.
This will be the 5th year we've held it, and it has just grown in popularity every year. People can come into the city on a warm evening and wander around the different stalls to decide what they want to eat. We have street food from 35 different countries, all cooked instantly before your eyes. It is fresh, fun, and delicious. What is there not to love?
What happens if it rains?
Fingers crossed, that won't happen very often. But if it rains, there will still be a small number of stalls that'll move under the cover of the bandstand. We've decided to do that this year so that people can be sure that they get something to eat if they are making their way into the city, and it's unclear if it's going to be cancelled or not. Last year people saw cloudy skies and didn't make the trip, but in the end, it often didn't rain anyway.
When and where does it all start?
For reasons of space, we've moved from the main city square this year. It starts next week in Queen Victoria Park, just a few steps from the Queen Vic Underground station. Stalls open at 6:30, so it starts early enough to take your kids along for the evening, and everything closes at midnight. It's on 7 days a week for the whole month. But it's not just city folk who are coming in for the evening. Foodies and chefs from all over the country and even from abroad are having food holidays here, trying out all the different flavors and getting ideas for their own cooking.
What's your favorite part of the festival?
The smell is just wonderful. It lingers for more than a block from the park, and it just draws you in. Most people like the fact that they can come back night after night and have a different dining experience. With so many stalls and so much choice, it's great for them to know that it's open for a whole month, so they can try as many different cuisines as they want.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 16 to 20.
Tell us about the food that is on offer.
The most popular stand, without fail, is the Chinese stall, where they serve steamed pork buns. They are a kind of soft, steamed bread with barbecued pork and a sweet sauce. A lot of people have a pork bun as a starter as they are walking around, and then decide on their main meal. I have been told they are very addictive, and may be the reason many people come to the festival night after night. So that everyone is able to enjoy them, this year the stand is adding a vegan version of them. The colourful Mexican stand uses completely fresh ingredients, and all their dishes are made on site. They also have quite a show when a mariachi band arrives and performs every night at around 8 o'clock. It draws quite a crowd. The Spanish paella is always a great show to watch. They make it in an enormous pan as big as a table. You can have a wonderful dish of rice and seafood cooked in the typical Spanish way. They have 3 or 4 pans going at once with different flavours. The Scottish stand has haggis, which is a traditional food made from the innards of a sheep, which might not be to everyone's taste. People who aren't feeling so adventurous with spices and ingredients can have typical British barbecued food, which includes salads and baked potatoes. We are trying to attract people with all tastes. And who knows, people who've never eaten this kind of food before may be completely unable to resist the incredible exotic smells and try something new. The greatest number of the stands are from Asia, the continent that specializes in street food, and we add more and more Asian countries to our lineup every year. We want to encourage as much diversity as possible, so of course there is plenty of food from the Americas, Africa, Europe and Oceania as well.
It sounds like the only problem with going to the street food festival is deciding what food to eat.
Exactly.
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3.
Part 3.
You will hear 2 students talking to their tutor about a market research study they have done. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 24. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 24.
Now, Andy and Rebecca, the first step of your business project this year is to do market research before you finally decide whether you will take your product to market. Remind me what your product is.
It's the flat portable water bottle that doesn't take up too much room in your bag.
I thought there were some problems with that. You discovered it wasn't a completely original idea.
Yes, though it was our own idea, it seems someone had got to it first. That didn't put us off, though. We just need to establish a point of difference with the company that we are competing with. The bottle that is on the market is made of plastic, though it is BPA-free, but we have had ours made out of borosilicate glass. Like glassware that you cook with and is used in laboratories, it is almost unbreakable. Another point of difference is that the competitor's product can't stand on its end. Our product has a flat, slightly wider bottom that allows for that. Also, our caps are made of aluminum rather than plastic, with the same silicone seal. Like the competition, our bottles are leak-proof.
Similarities are that it is virtually the same shape, and the price point is much of a muchness, depending on how many we produce. Ours is slightly heavier though. The main thing we wanted was to have a non-plastic product. Our design is also much smaller, so it's easier to carry in the hand.
All right, we don't expect all our student products to be completely original, though, of course, it is easier to sell a product if it has no competition.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 25 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 25 to 30.
Tell me about your market research strategy.
The first thing we did was check out the competition. There is the original design that was financed through an online funding site and is now exclusively sold online. Then there are 2 other direct copies that are also sold through the major online retailer at a much lower price. They have come on the market since we started the project.
So, competition is growing.
Yes, but they still don't have any market recognition. We put together a focus group of 30 people, and none of them had ever heard of the product. The focus group was made up of people from campus, 30% of whom already used a multi-use water bottle.
Tell me more about the makeup of the focus group.
25 of them were undergraduates and the other 5 were university staff. We recruited them from the University Sports Center and with some flyers in the main food court. We gave them lunch after the focus session for their trouble. We weren't able to give them all a bottle to keep as we only had 30 samples made, but they were able to fill and use them on the day for testing. We just weren't expecting so many people to come to the group.
We chose 10 people from the group to keep their bottles and test them over the next week, and they all reported back to us online.
You were very lucky to get a 100% response. It's quite difficult to get that even though it was such a small group. Why didn't you get more samples made?
It was a question of budget. We want to save as much money as possible for our promotional campaign. From the responses we got from the original group, we are very positive that people will want to buy it. We put a tickable box on the focus group question form for the subjects to tick if they wanted to be contacted when the product came on the market. All 30 of them ticked the box.
You might find it is because people just like ticking boxes. Turning a tick into a sale might not be so easy. Can I see the survey form? So, you gave this to everyone. Okay. You seem to have asked all the right questions. Have you got any data to show me?
It's just raw data at the moment. We haven't set it out into a report. We can give you that in next week's meeting.
What about audio of the focus group meeting?
We recorded it, but we haven't typed it up yet.
I'll see you next week at the same time, and by then I want a completed report. You don't have much time to get this product to market, and hold-ups at this early stage could have you losing marks on your final result. I'll overlook it this time, but you had better come up with the goods next week.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
Part 4.
First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 35.
The 100-meter sprint is no longer a race where 8 fast runners do a lot of training and then line up to see who can go the fastest on the day. Now that the fastest male runners in the world are regularly running the distance in less than 10 seconds, the training and preparation to make the difference in those milliseconds that separate runners is complex. Jim Hines from the USA was the first to break the 10-second barrier in 1968, with very few over the years that followed being able to match him. Until the second decade of this century, almost a third of those who did manage it were found to be using performance-enhancing drugs. Now 50 people have broken 10 seconds in the last 5 years, but none have been able to match Jamaican Usain Bolt's 2009 record of 9.58 seconds. Will it ever happen? Scientists are still trying to understand how the top runners in the world who manage these incredible speeds are actually able to do it. Longer steps seems like an obvious way to move faster, but to do this, the athlete needs to produce nearly 5 times their body weight in force and touch the ground for just milliseconds. The way very fast sprinters do it is by keeping their leg stiff and pushing it hard into the ground on impact. This can make an enormous difference in sprint speeds, as slower sprinters only use little more than 3 times their body weight when doing the same thing. The problem is that the impact time of the foot is less than 1/10 of a second, and motor skills like this cannot be consciously managed. A 100-meter sprinter works on autopilot, and it seems that trying to consciously think about movement during a race slows the runner down. So focusing on foot position and force needs to be done repeatedly in training until it becomes automatic. Then the conscious brain can take a step back during a race. Diet plays a major part, as the size of a runner is an important factor in creating force. The sprinter needs to increase muscle mass and power and have a low-fat ratio. The way to build muscle mass and the strength to go with it is to do lots of weight-bearing exercise. Though running is weight-bearing, it is inefficient for building muscles compared to getting into the gym and lifting weights. Recent studies have shown the optimum way to build muscle and reduce body fat is to have a diet high in healthy fats, moderate in protein, and minimal in carbohydrates. This may mean having more than half the calorific intake in the form of healthy fats. Mental skills should not be overlooked. Comparing athletes in peak physical condition, studies have found that the mental state can make up to 80% of the difference between the performance of competitors. The ability to set goals forms a part of this, and commitment to training is another part. But when it comes to the actual day of the race, there are psychological tools that can be used. Creating a mental image of how the race will be run and won has long been shown to be extremely effective. Yet studies have also been done on pre-race visualization of happy memories. Inducing such emotions has also been shown to significantly improve running times. All these factors might be combined to enable sprinters to run fast enough to beat Usain Bolt's benchmark. He defied many expectations when he did it, but some calculations have shown he might have done even better. His start reaction times were slow in comparison to other runners, and this could have been corrected by physical and mental training. Perhaps his diet could have been better, as his penchant for chicken nuggets is well known. Even if he had been running at altitude, as Jim Hines had been when he broke the 10-second barrier, or had the benefit of a tailwind, it has been suggested he could have run a time as fast as 9.45 seconds. Whether it be better knowledge and training, diet, mental attitude, or perhaps even some genetic abnormality, the record will one day be broken.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.